Jacob is cornered. Behind him is a lifetime spent running from his mistakes, and ahead of him is an approaching army of 400 men led by his brother Esau, a man who has sworn to kill him. Out of options, Jacob makes a desperate tactical move. Under the cover of darkness, he divides his entire camp. He sends his wives, his children, and every single piece of wealth he owns away into the night. They cross the Jabbok River, a dark, isolating ravine cutting through the desert landscape. It acts as a physical boundary, severing Jacob from everything. For his entire life, Jacob has relied on clever schemes and accumulated wealth to buy or trick his way out of danger. Now, the wealth is gone. The family is gone. The support system is completely gone. The book of Genesis documents this absolute isolation in just 3 Hebrew words: Vayivater Yaakov Levado. Jacob was left alone. Then, out of the blackness, he is violently attacked. An unnamed, overpowering force, described in the text only as a man, ambushes him in the mud and shallow water of the riverbank. Deprived of every external defense, Jacob is forced into a confrontation where his only remaining resource is his own body and the will to survive the night. The text details a grueling, hour-by-hour physical wrestling match. The fight in the mud drags on continuously until the first signs of dawn. The combat reaches a stalemate that shocks them both. The entity cannot break a mortal man, and Jacob, despite the immense toll, refuses to yield. To end the fight, the entity strikes a precise anatomical target. The attacker violently strikes the socket of Jacob's hip, knocking the joint out of place. A dislocated hip mechanically separates the femur from the pelvis, instantly destroying his foundation. Jacob should be entirely defenseless, but Jacob reacts with a surprising tenacity. He weaponizes his own agony, holding on with the sheer strength of his upper body. He delivers an audacious ultimatum to his attacker. He tells the entity, "I will not let you go unless you bless me." He takes his moment of deepest physical vulnerability and imminent defeat and turns it into his ultimate point of leverage. The entity responds by demanding to know his name. To answer, Jacob must verbally confess his identity. Jacob literally translates to the heel grabber, the deceiver. The attacker tells him that this old identity is now dead. He is given a new name, Israel. In Hebrew, this combines the root word for struggle with El, a name for God. The scroll explicitly provides the justification, because you have struggled with God and with humans and have overcome. The name Israel becomes a permanent record of this encounter, a title defined by direct, agonizing confrontation with the divine. The sun finally rises over the valley. The entity vanishes, leaving Jacob alive on the riverbank, but he is not the same man who crossed it hours earlier. The text documents the physical evidence of the night. It describes him walking away from the river, limping heavily on his hip. He names the location Peniel, which means face of God, as a direct acknowledgement of surviving a face-to-face encounter with his creator. This anatomical graphic highlights the sciatic nerve in the hindquarters of an animal. To this day, the nation of Israel observes a strict dietary law prohibiting the consumption of this specific tendon, known in Hebrew as the Gid Hanasheh. This rule acts as a forced daily physical remembrance. It ensures that the people eating at the table remember the exact injury their patriarch suffered, and the heavy physical price paid for their collective name. Jacob leaves the riverbank carrying a limp that stays with him for the rest of his life. For his descendants, the memory of that night is preserved in their own anatomy, a reminder that their identity began with a struggle they refused to lose.